So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Allison Mosier, and I work in the Office of Alumni Services here at Gannon. I wanted to thank each of the deans for giving us their time tonight, and we look forward to hearing how the first month of classes have gone. Before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone that homecoming is taking place virtually this year on October 1st through 4th, and registration has officially opened. You can visit our website, www.gannonalumni.org/homecoming for more information. And now I'd like to pass it over to Tony. He's going to introduce to you the deans.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony DePasqua, and I work in the Office of Constituent Engagement with Allison here at Gannon. Just a couple items before we get started. Tonight's event will be recorded and made available after this evening for those who were not able to join us. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to send them in the chat feature. We do also ask that you keep your microphone on mute to help prevent feedback during tonight's presentation. Thank you again for joining us tonight for our Town Hall with the Deans. Our Town Hall series provides an opportunity for the Gannon family to interact and hear from the senior leadership of Gannon. Tonight, we are joined by our 3 academic deans. The deans at Gannon are responsible for the academic program oversight, ensuring accreditation standards are met, and adhering to Gannon's commitment to excellence in teaching, scholarship, and service. Over the past 6 months, our deans have worked tirelessly to ensure that academic standards have been upheld despite the current challenges presented by COVID-19. We will briefly introduce the 3 deans, and we will also send a link to their full bios in the chat for you to read if you would like to read further. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Karina Vernazza, our Dean of the College of Engineering and Business. Dr. Vernazza joined Gannon in 2003 as an assistant professor of mechanical engineering. Since beginning at Gannon, Dr. Vernazza has secured over $2 million in grants and research awards in the STEM field. Dr. Lori Lindley currently serves as the Dean of the College of Humanities, Education, and Social Sciences, or CHES for short. Dr. Lindley has been at Gannon for 15 years, and prior to being promoted to Dean in March, Dr. Lindley served as a faculty member in the graduate and undergraduate psychology programs at Gannon. Dr. Lindley is active in the Gannon and Erie community, serving as an advocate for social justice through her involvement through numerous committees and boards, including the Crime Victim Center of Erie County, and co-chairing the Racial Justice Task Force at Gannon. And lastly, we welcome Dr. Sarah Ewing, our Dean in the Murawski College of Health Professions and Social Sciences, both here in Erie and Ruskin, Florida. Dr. Ewing has been with Gannon since 2009, and in 2017 was promoted to the Dean's position after serving as a faculty member and chair of the biology department and associate dean of the college. Dr. Ewing is active in the Erie community and serves on community boards, including Hooked on Books for Kids and the United Way of Erie County's Young Leaders Society.
I have to unmute myself. Thank you, Tony, and thank you all for being here tonight, this evening with us. We've collected your questions and the deans will answer them throughout the event. Feel free to submit additional questions in the chat during the presentation, and we'll begin tonight's event with a brief presentation from the deans. Ladies.
Thank you, Allison, and good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address you tonight and give you an update of what's happening currently in the College of Engineering and Business. As you are aware, we have done a lot of changes to adapt ourselves throughout the pandemic and make sure we continue to offer quality programs and engage our students as much as possible in the same format or the ways in which we have done in the past. So I will take a few minutes to give you a few updates of the College of Engineering and Business. From academic perspective, we have started several new programs this academic year. As you are aware, cyber programs started in the last fall with the undergraduate degrees in cybersecurity and cyber engineering. And this fall we have launched the first certificate. Is 4 3-credit courses that allow any individual with no really any technical background come in and get a certificate in cybersecurity essential. These are graduate level certificate that we started to offer this fall semester. Our first class in this cohort is of 10 students. So we are working very closely to meet our ROI metrics. In addition to that, this fall semester, we have also launched the first Master's in Biomedical Engineering. We have not promoted it officially throughout our marketing techniques, but we have enrolled 4 students from several of the undergrad students that have decided to stay and a couple external applicants. One of the questions that came through the submission was a question regarding the innovation and creativity minor. This has been an effort that started actually 2.5 years ago when we started to discuss how can we integrate this better throughout the entire curriculum, not really specific to a college, but as an institution, looking at some best practices on how to engage students at different levels. So for the first time, we have gotten this approved this semester, but we're offering a pilot course in the fall. And what you can see here is the collaboration really that has taken place at the university level, where we have faculty members from all the 3 colleges participating in this pilot course that is being deployed this fall semester. Our goal is to enroll students as sophomore level students. So the first cohort will really start full blown in the fall of 2021. In addition, in terms of new programs or revisions to programs, we have launched this fall the MBA with a focus in business analytics. We have the first cohort in that class, or the first course being offered, with 15 students enrolled this semester as we launched it this year. From an accreditation perspective, we had this past February, towards the end of February, the visit of the ACBS bachelor's degree, the associate degree, and the MBA have been reaffirmed in terms of accreditation. And not even 2 weeks ago, I will say, is when we received our confirmation for the accreditation of the Computer Science, Information Systems, and Software Engineer final decision from ABET, which is the accrediting body for both the Engineering Council and the Computing Council. There were a couple of questions on the chat in terms of what opportunities are we continuing to offer our students throughout the pandemic. And I'm presenting here an example that addresses that in the business side. We have been taking students for the last 2 years to work during the Super Bowl. We have to actually, it's an application process in which they take students from specific schools that have applied to come and work during the Super Bowl. We open this to all the business students. As you can imagine, sports management and marketing are the ones that tend to take the priority or usually apply the first for those spots. Even through the pandemic, that the number of seats have been reduced or acceptance from different schools have been reduced, we have been able to secure participation for our students. So hopefully, as the pandemic progresses, following all the CDC guidelines, we'll be able to send a group of students to the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay in 2021 again. If you can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. In addition, from grants and partnerships highlights, what are we continuing to do? You might have been aware, and I want to thank all the alumni that contributed to our project in trying to support the efforts to build face shields and support the Erie community and surrounding states, because we also donated face shields to areas in Ohio and New York as well. But we were able to finalize that project and provide over 4,500 free face shields to community partners that requested them, or just simple organizations, through the ECRA grant with the Erie Gaming Revenue Authority and the donations from the alumni that supported this project. Now at this point, this project is complete. We have retained around 1,000 of those face shields that were manufactured for our own employees and students, and the human resources have been distributing those as needed on campus, if that is the case. In addition to that, another partnership that you might have heard about is the Erie Insurance Partnership, which was announced, I would say, around a month and a half ago, if that, maybe less than that, in which they have committed $1 million for the 3rd floor of the IHAC building, which is referred to as the Hatchery. The Hatchery is designed to really engage academics, industrial partners, and students in any type of project or contract. We have several different pieces on that 3rd floor, which I'm going to call it the most dynamic floor right now as we're planning IHAC. And I could expand on that as needed if there's a question. But we're very thankful to Erie Insurance for their support. $1 million is toward the building, and the other $1 million is actually almost a retainer to engage in projects when we're going to have faculty, students, and members of insurance participate in R&D projects that could be community-based. We have right now the GIS Center, which is the Geographic Information Systems grant that we received, doing a lot of work with the community, as well as a partnership also with Network Technologies that could also infuse part of those grants. So we're very thankful for that, and it's being a huge endeavor for many aspects of the institution that include, as you can imagine, the alumni services, advancement, grants and contracts, and as well the faculty here in the College of Engineering and Business. Another piece in terms of partnerships throughout the summer, realizing that the pandemic had hit and we needed to engage with our partners in a different ways and do outreach, we started doing virtual meeting with employers with whom we have been building relationships for the last couple of years through different venues. These meetings involve faculty, involve my office, the Office of the Deans, with the Associate Deans, as well as the Office of Continuing, Career Exploration and Development, in order to try to engage and provide opportunities to engage with these partnerships. We have moved a lot of the things that we do virtually, and we're gonna continue to do that and find a model that continues to support the goals of engaging them for opportunities for students from an internship perspective, opportunities for research with faculty from a grant or just R&D perspective, and not just simply building those relationships for future type of endeavors that can be investments, as well as what we're trying to do in IHAC as well. So I'm going to ask for the next slide, Lori, thank you. And lastly, a couple questions in terms of IHAC that I saw through the ones that came through. Let me first give you an update. Definitely the pandemic has changed our timeline on the opening of the building and construction. So last year when we announced when we were going to open the building, our plan was to actually start classes there in fall of 2020. As you can imagine, after construction stopped, those plans have changed. Right now we're in target to be completed with construction in November of this year. So that will mean that if everything goes well, we'll be able to actually deliver courses in the second floor, which is the Pierre McCormick Cyber Learning Center, in the spring of 2021. So we are right now on target. I just got a call this afternoon regarding furniture coming in towards the end of September. So things seem to be moving and progressing. So what you can see in this image is the renderings, two sets of the exterior on the left side. I'm showing you what it's gonna look like. And then the progress as of September 8th, right next to it where we are. And then on the right side is the Pierre McCormick Cyber Learning Center, where we're going to house the cybersecurity program. The top image is the rendering and where also construction is at this point last week. So as we continue to evolve, we'll keep you posted. I know you can see constant images of the updates in our website through the gannon.edu/IHAC. You can see the most up-to-date images as construction progresses. So there was a question also about the programs that were deployed. As I mentioned earlier, we did deploy last year the 2 undergraduate programs. Right now we have 29 students enrolled between both of those 2 undergraduate degrees. And in addition, as I mentioned, we have deployed the first certificate that started this fall. We have gotten approval for the second certificate already that will start next fall. And we're currently looking for board approval next week for the master's program that will complement those 2 certificates. So we have been moving on along with the progression of the academic programs that will support the activity in the second floor of the IHAC building. I'm gonna stop with that and let Dr. Lori Linley provide you with an update of the College of Humanities, Education, and Social Sciences.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to just highlight a few things that have been recent developments in CHES, just to give you some updates and bits of information. The Gannon Night, which has been our student-produced newspaper since 1947, underwent a complete overhaul and evolution this summer. So we're into a new era of the Gannon Night. It has a new look and a redesigned website, and will no longer produce a print edition. So you can't pick the paper up on campus anymore, but you can still read it on the website. So I hope you'll keep up with the student reporters and writing and events on campus that way. The Schuster Theater has reimagined its fall lineup under our current circumstances. We're not doing the types of theater productions in the Schuster Theater that we usually do, and they've come up with some really creative options instead. 12th Night was the first production of the year of the fall, and it was produced online in like a simulated social media platform. It was really well done and a really fun production that wasn't just like watching a traditional theater production on Zoom. So it was really well done, and it's going to be re-released for homecoming. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, you'll be able to. They're also exploring something new called digital theater, which will have a visual projection on the Gannon campus outside. So that's written by students and is a really innovative and new way of doing theater. And then other productions throughout the year that will have different types of digital and remote visual formats. The School of Public Service and Global Affairs is hosting Gannon's first ever Fulbright Scholar, and we're working on getting her on campus right now. And again, some complications with that, with travel, and she's coming from France, but Gannon is really excited to have been awarded a Fulbright Scholar, and she'll be teaching French classes, upper level French classes, and offering cultural seminars. So that's a great opportunity for us. And the School of Education is launching their year-long residency program in the Erie Public Schools. Again, not exactly in the format that we expected, but that is underway. It's the first program of its kind in Western Pennsylvania, where students are full-time resident in a public school for a whole year. And in this case, they are in the Erie Public Schools working with each 2 residents, each located in a 3rd grade classroom, but at this time fully remote. And then if the Erie Public Schools are able to go back in person after November, then the students will be in the classroom. So just some highlights of developments in our various programs. I also want to share with you some student highlights, some exciting things and recognitions that Chess students have received recently. Brandon Sereniti has graduated and was a double major in foreign language and international studies, and he was awarded a Fulbright scholarship to Brazil for an English teaching assistant. So we kind of not exactly an exchange program, but we were able to have one of our students go to be a Fulbright teaching assistant as well. Our honors students have published in the Northeast Regional Honors Council Journal, and so they have their work published there. And Taylor Bennett, who is the Student Activities Board chairperson and also psychology major, is elected as the student representative to that regional board. So that's a nice honor and opportunity for a Chess student. And then very recent news, Nate Mannion and Emily Hall have been selected to be fellows for the National Organization Campus Election Engagement Project, which promotes student voter registration and voting participation across college campuses. And then we also have other students from PSJ who are working in the county election office. So some political involvement this fall, which is great for our students. And then the last element that I'd like to share with you is about our Chess Speaker Series. And the theme this year that the committee chose is Racial Justice Be the Change. We've had 2 speaker events already, and those have been modified, of course, for our current situation. We have had small in-person audiences, but for events we can't have more than 25 people in person, so the bulk of the viewers are on Zoom. So we've had 2 events already, and then we have these other several speaking events coming up during the fall semester. We have scholars speaking from Eastern Kentucky University, UMass Dartmouth, and Montclair State University. And so national speakers that we will have presenting virtually to audiences on campus and then also on Zoom. And of course, you're all invited to attend those presentations, and I hope you will. So that information and more details will be coming out. We also will have Congress on Campus, which is former US representatives that speak to an issue from their various points of view. And we'll have Donna Edwards as the Democrat representative and Charles Bustani as the Republican. That's coming up in just a few weeks. So some really exciting events that provide opportunities for our students and also for alumni to participate. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sarah Ewing, and she is going to talk to you about updates in Morosky.
First unmute. So thank you, Lori. Hi, everyone, and good evening. Again, my name is Dr. Sarah Ewing, and I serve as the Dean of the Morosky College of Health Professions and Sciences. And I like to use the hashtag or abbreviation MCHPS so that I don't have to say that mouthful many, many times. So in our college, just a reminder, one of our mantras is learning today, transforming tomorrow. In the development and education of future scientists, researchers, and clinicians or healthcare providers. And so in the current college, I wanted to share one update because it's still a relatively recent change. We did undergo a significant restructuring about a year ago and have begun and continue to work on implementing those changes. So the college is currently comprised of 5 schools, and they include the Villa Maria School of Nursing, which many of you may be familiar with, as well as the School of Medical Sciences, the School of Public Health and Health Sciences, the School of Rehabilitative Sciences, and the School of Sciences. And across all 5 schools, we currently have around 120 faculty and about 16 staff members. And that includes faculty and staff in both the Erie campus as well as our Ruskin, Florida campus, which currently offers 6 active graduate health professional academic programs. We have currently around 60 active degree granting programs offered across the college. And the recent challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic impacted a lot of those related to clinical education. And so I did want to share some updates on a lot of the work that we have done over the spring and the summer to manage the transitions and changes that occurred, and how we are up and running and have successfully graduated now all of our 2020 students, some of which who were scheduled to finish in August. Our last few students did successfully complete their degree requirements and are scheduled to earn their degree as of September 15th. So those will be the last few students that have finished all of the requirements that, again, many of which were delayed due to cancellations of clinical rotations in the spring. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this slide highlights a lot of the activity and work that has been done over the past year. And I like to highlight the success that we were able to accomplish during very challenging times and very busy times in getting ready for this upcoming academic year and fall 2020 as well. So just to begin, some highlights from our college include accreditation. So last year we were excited that we achieved initial and full accreditation for our physical therapy program in the Ruskin, Florida campus from the Commission on Accreditation in Physical Therapy for the maximum of 5 years. And that allowed us to celebrate the graduation of our first cohort of students, and enables them to sit for their licensure exam to seek employment after successful completion of achieving licensure. In addition, you're going to see in a second, we are offering our Master of Science in Speech Language Pathology program for the Ruskin, Florida campus. This is one of our newest programs that began fall 2020, and we were successful in both achieving candidacy status in the spring from the Council on Academic Accreditation, as well as filling the first cohort of students with 30 enrolled students for fall 2020. Our Doctor of Nursing Practice degree is a fully 100% online degree option out of Villa Maria School of Nursing, and we have offered that program now for several years. And this year we were ready and we sought out full accreditation by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, and we were successful in achieving the maximum accreditation for 5 years for that program as well. And that sets us up very nicely to support the UPMC Hammett School of Nurse Anesthesia program as they transition from an entry-level master's degree program to an entry-level DNP program. And then the last major update from an accreditation standpoint was our Applied Exercise Science undergraduate program and Sport and Exercise Science program, or graduate Sport and Exercise Science program that's offered both in Erie and Ruskin campuses achieved initial accreditation from the Commission on Academic Accreditation for Allied Health Education Programs through COAES. And they joined one of only 13 graduate programs to achieve this accreditation and one of 64 undergraduate programs to receive this accreditation, further sort of demonstrating their commitment to excellence in the educational programs that we provide to our students and their desire to go through the peer review process, which is quite rigorous, to demonstrate that the product that we are providing our students is preparing them for their future within that profession and doing it at a very high level. In Ruskin, we continue to work on the development of the newest academic building. So some of you may be aware and remember that last August we blessed the newest academic building, the North Building, and had finished the first floor and part of the second floor of that building. We are beginning to talk about the design and plans for the second floor build out. But over this past year, we also successfully completed the installation of all of the technology necessary to support the SLP clinic on campus. And this clinic will be used to support a community clinic that will provide clinical education for our students and provide a needed service to our local community in the Ruskin, Florida area. And the last pictures here are to highlight our students as they began to return to campus. So as I mentioned, related to clinical education and the challenges we faced to ensure that the education we provided and in our ability to assess the students' competency and the skills that they need to be competent prior to entering clinical rotations or completing their degrees require hands-on and face-to-face instruction and opportunities. And so we welcomed back students to campus as early as June 2020 in the Ruskin, Florida campus, and shortly thereafter in mid to late July, we had students return to the Erie campus to complete those requirements that were necessary for their spring and or summer courses. And those have now all been completed, and the students have been able to continue to progress forward, many of which on schedule and on time. They've been very creative in making sure that students did not lose any opportunities or any of the knowledge gained during the time that they were not in the clinic or in the classroom, using simulation online as well as different educational resources that provided live clinical rotational experiences and case studies with an actual clinician. And so we didn't let them sort of skip a beat or lose any time with respect to their education through the spring or the summer. And so far, all of the current metrics to look at their developing skills and knowledge base have demonstrated that they have not lost, and they may have even gained some success in our predictors for their continued progress toward success on their licensure exams in the future. Next slide, please. So this just highlights again that we did begin our new Master of Science in Speech Language Pathology program in the Ruskin campus, led by Dr. Albert Villanueva Reyes. And on the Erie campus, we did achieve approval for both the Bachelor of Science in Communication Sciences and Disorders on the Erie campus, and to begin developing the Master of Science in Speech Language Pathology for the Erie campus as well. These initiatives are being led by Dr. Mary McDermott, who is serving as the program director and assistant professor. And we are currently working on preparing our notice of intent to seek candidacy status for that master's degree program. And if successful, our plan and the timeline would be to offer and enroll students in fall 2023. The bachelor's degree program is available immediately this fall. We have our first internal transfer student. This year we will focus on marketing that program and offering also a 3+2 option for students to get an accelerated path to earn their master's in SLP through our Ruskin campus. We've also developed a new minor in forensic science as well as a minor in nutrition. Next slide, please. So the next two slides just were to highlight our continued success in enrollment across the colleges. So this slide simply shows a yield rate showing the number of or percent of students who have been accepted relative to the number of applications that have been received. We continue to be able to accept high quality students, but also hold true to the standards expected to maintain excellence across our programs. Next slide. And this is just a continuation to demonstrate or illustrate that. This slide indicates the number of deposits versus the number of accepted students. And it again just further illustrates a continued success of our ability to recruit new students, prospective students into our academic programs and successfully prepare them then moving forward into our professions. One of the questions that had been posed was, what are some of the professions in each of our areas that are some of the fastest growing? In the Murawski College of Health Professions and Sciences, we continue to see significant growth and interest in our nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree, and as well as our physician assistant science and the rehab science programs. And I'm also starting to see a uptick in interest in public health. And I think that it certainly aligns with the current situation with the pandemic and interest in how students may be able to give back and pursue areas of research in epidemiology or direct community service in the areas of public health, which is exciting. And last slide, please. So last thing I wanted to mention, another question was about the Ruskin campus and our continued growth and development. I mentioned a little bit of our continued progress on the infrastructure, but this slide simply highlights the current graduate enrollment growth over the last 4 years with the Ruskin campus as we've built on and added new programs. So all of these programs, again, currently are housed within Murawski, and we've started from the first program, Occupational Therapy Doctorate, in the fall of 2016, which is not shown here, with a class of about 25 students. And we've now grown to over 300 students this fall 2020 across 6 different academic programs. The current programs that we are developing to market and advertise within the Florida area are the Family Nurse Practitioner, the Doctor of Nursing Practice, and the Masters of Healthcare Administration, which is offered through the College of Engineering and Business through the School of Business. These are all online or hybrid programs that are currently offered in Erie or out of Erie, but are going to be extended and more actively marketed within the Florida area to further increase enrollment and growth of those programs in areas of need. So with that, I thank everyone for listening. And I wanted to transition now. We received another question related to the percent of our courses across all 3 colleges or across the university and the methods in which we are delivering them, either face-to-face or on in-person instruction, or 100% remote or online courses, or a mix of high flex or what we call hybrid courses. So this slide highlights for you the exact percentages at this time for each college and overall. Generally, we have about 75% of courses are still being delivered face-to-face and in person. We have found, at least in the Murawski College, and I think across all 3 colleges, many of our students want to be back on campus. They want to be back in the classroom, as do our faculty, and they're very excited that we've been able to accommodate and offer so many of our courses in that manner. We have about 15 to 18% of our courses overall are offered in a high flex or hybrid model. A hybrid blends a mixture of online virtual learning with face-to-face instruction. Whereas a high flex model is a combination of remote and in-person students in receiving instruction from the professor at the exact same time, the scheduled class time, on the scheduled class days, where about 50% of the students are remote and 50% of the students would be in person, and they would rotate depending on maybe the day of the week for that class, or the week depending on how many days that class is offered. And then remote delivery, we have about 8% of our total courses are 100% online, in part to accommodate the needs of faculty who may need to be 100% online, or the course itself may lend itself to best be suited in that delivery model. So hopefully that addressed that question a little bit, but if anyone has any follow-up questions, we'd be happy to answer that. And I will turn it back over to Tony and Allison to help moderate some of those questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vernazza, Dr. Lindley, and Dr. Ewing for the updates. It's great to see and hear that despite the challenges presented through COVID, that your leadership and your teams have really been able to adapt and continue to offer programs and experiences that allow our students to continue to grow both in and outside of the classroom. So we did receive a couple questions in the chat, and if you do have other questions, we invite the questions to be submitted. But we would love to hear more about the transition to some of these remote courses and the hybrid and high flex classes. There were a couple questions about resources and tools to help students, because to transition from in-person to a remote delivery can be really difficult. What have you heard from students or faculty, and what resources are available to help prevent students from slipping through the cracks, but also help them navigate some of those challenges that may exist in a remote learning environment?
I could maybe start addressing, I could talk first about faculty. In terms of resources, through the entire summer, we have installed over 150 cameras in all our lecture classes, both here in Erie and Ruskin, to facilitate the case that a faculty needed to go remote. And at the same time, if we had students that deemed to be remote, we established a process through the advising office for students that may have a high risk situation. It could be health related, whatever that situation might be, for them to request to be remote 100%. Let's say a student might not have a computer. We have a system in place to let students borrow a computer, borrow technology through ITS to allow for that to happen. In addition to that, as you might be aware, we have created a dashboard that shows you the active cases in Erie, as well as close contacts. So we have had throughout the first, now we're ending week 5 of the semester, several positive COVID cases, and we have done contact tracing for students to find out who needed to quarantine as well. And in that case, students that needed to be remote for a short period of time have been allowed to continue to take their classes because of the cameras that have been installed or whatever techniques the faculty might be using. So we have spent a lot of time trying to do that outreach. In addition to that, I do have to give a lot of credit to the advising center. Any student that is fully remote or is currently remote, they have been doing outreach to them to make sure that they are connected. We have a system in place called the EARS forms, early referral system, that we have been encouraging faculty to use more. Somebody's not showing up to class or not connecting, refer them to the advising center so that they can connect with them and follow up. So we have really built a strong partnership with that office to try to ensure that we keep track of the students. In addition to that, we have been asking, you might know or not know, we have this daily app that we have to complete. Faculty and students need to do that. So our faculty are checking that app daily. We've asked them to do that to make sure that nobody falls through the crack, that they are checking in, and maybe somebody's not showing up or they're not feeling well. We just want to make sure what's happening in some form of shape. So a couple systems in place to make sure that we get that piece from students, because right now it's a hard time. As you can imagine, the number of students facing challenges, they could be mental health related, not being connected, not being engaged has risen. And this is not in Gannon, this is across the US. So we have put a lot of systems in place to try to engage them and continue that engagement. I see Kathleen Gaussman in the call. I know their office and their division is doing a lot of that as well. to make sure that we're able to connect with them. From a faculty perspective, I talked about the cameras. We were hosting weekly workshops to make sure faculty were comfortable with technology. We have faculty requesting microphones because they felt they couldn't speak through the mask. We have microphones they can borrow through ITS. We have faculty requesting camera document type of technology. So we have been trying to be as flexible as we can to ensure that the technology is there to facilitate teaching and also learning, both from the faculty side and obviously learning from the student side. I hope this answered that question. If we can obviously provide a lot more detail as needed.
Thank you. You actually hit on the follow-up question. Another question came in about faculty. A lot of the faculty have spent their careers teaching in person and offering those in-person experiences. So the question really was, how do we train faculty and help with their continued development and professional development to transition? And you spoke to that. Thank you.
And I'd like to say a little bit more about that too, Tony. There were a lot of workshops available in the summer for faculty. There was a high level of participation in those workshops for faculty to get ready with Zoom, with the use of the cameras that were installed, with practicing having some students in the classroom and other students on Zoom at the same time, which is challenging. And then actually after the first week of classes, I felt like things had gone surprisingly well. So I sent a survey out to all of my faculty to find out what the challenges had been in case there were some that I hadn't heard about. And to be honest, the largest category of concerns was related to technology, and there was still some growing pains with that. And but the faculty were finding that they were able to get the resources that they needed from ITS or from the from CETL, the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, to help them work through some of those little hiccups that they had during the first week. So it is a steep learning curve. It's challenging for some faculty, but I think that we had the resources and supports in place to help them through that and to continue to help them with that.
If I may add just one little addition to that, I just want to say and follow up to what Lori has shared and what Karina has shared, is just that it is a steep learning curve and that we did have those resources in place, and that I'm very proud of both the faculty and the students for their adaptability. There's been a lot of changes, and the faculty worked hard all summer to take what they did very quickly in the spring, which I think they did their very best to provide a seamless transition very rapidly to an online environment, to engage in the technologies that are available to them, to improve and prepare so that they could deliver a seamless course in the fall. And like Lori said, everyone's still learning. But then in addition to that, the students have been very flexible and empathetic. And, you know, I think the faculty have tried to be as flexible and empathetic in return. So I just want to mention that there has been a lot of work that went in to preparing and to take advantage of all of those resources, both that Gannon offers, but also some educational vendors, again, back to the clinical education piece that we implemented, that were all new resources for the faculty that they had to learn how to use as well and implement in their courses.
Thanks, ladies. So I have a question that came in. Service learning is an integral part of the liberal arts experience for students. So what does service learning experiences look like this year?
I can speak to that. So our Office of Academic Community Engagement is actively involved in creating these opportunities for students, and many of them are virtual. So there are opportunities such as video communication among faculty and community partners and students. There's an opportunity in digital storytelling, and so that's been implemented and offered in several courses where students use a digital platform to advocate and to share a message regarding the needs and also priorities of a community partner or a general population that is in need. We do also still have direct service learning opportunities, and the Office of Service Learning has put in place some additional practices in order to help us to make sure that our students are safe and that the agencies are also utilizing safe practices in interacting with students. So, and I see Erica is on the call. She's been working very hard with Daniel Salamone on all of these transitions and making sure that our students still have opportunities in service learning, and also that there's a variety of opportunities that are available depending on their comfort level, whether they still want to go in person or if they prefer to have a virtual experience.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn. So some of the other questions really came in surrounding gift courses and study abroad. As the university has really transitioned and explored providing that global experience for all of our students, what do gift courses look like currently or in the spring semester, and any insight on study abroad?
I can I think answer that question. We did work with Megan McHugh to get some of the most current information and numbers from her on the status of study abroad and gift courses at Gannon this academic year. So the gift courses are going to be and intend to still be offered in May, with a variety of courses running from each college. And it includes some of the liberal studies core courses, major requirements, as well as elective options. And they will be traveling both internationally and domestically. And then in terms of study abroad, they are still proceeding as we normally would. We currently have 11 students who are studying abroad this fall and are leaving next week to travel and embark upon their experiences in Italy. There's 9 students traveling to Italy and 2 students to Germany. There are students from all 3 colleges studying in Rome, and there are students studying in Germany for part of the double degree program in software engineering through College of Engineering and Business. The Learning Abroad Office has been using the CIEE Health Risk Assessment to determine the feasibility of the semester abroad programs and ensuring that the students are safe at their chosen location. And they've been working and collaborating with our partner universities to ensure that they have the COVID precautions in place that are similar to ours. So we're still able to offer these experiences. Our students are asking for these experiences, and we're finding ways to support that interest.
Thanks, Sarah. Who's going, Tony? Me or you? So we had a question. All right. We had a question from an alumnus. I'm not sure how much we know about this. I think it's more for Karina. But they asked how the business program has changed since the 70s.
I will say that in the last years, there's been quite a bit of transformation in some of those programs. I don't want to be very historical, but our programs became accredited in 2020 by ACBSP, which is accreditation council. I remember for business programs. I'm missing a letter. I'm sorry. I'm just blanked out. So 2010 was the first year that our programs became accredited. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're putting practices in place to ensure that the student learning outcomes are being met, that we're measuring them effectively, that we can demonstrate progress towards them, and it provides our programs a level of quality when we compare to other schools. We just went through an accreditation program. We have been the first school to offer an MBA in the region for over 40 years. I think we're going into year 50 of offering an MBA. We just went through a complete revision of the MBA in the last 2 years. We used to have a common type of core or curriculum for both the online and the ground. That has completely changed as of this year, where we have a ground option that is focused in business analytics, separate from the online curriculum. The online curriculum platforms have been completely revised. We just finished the last one in the summer, and now they're offered not just for our students, but also through the consortiums that we have. We have an agreement with OCICU and also with CIC, and then we're offering our courses through that, meeting the Quality Matters standards. in order for us to offer a course to those platforms, we need to make sure that they provide, they have the quality or the standards that are required in terms of quality matters, which is a system that allows to so much check and balances. In terms of the concentrations right now, we are currently undergoing a revision of the concentrations and looking at increasing the minimum required of courses or credits per concentration. Our most populated concentration at the time is the business administration, followed by finance and accounting. So you can imagine accounting is very strict in terms of who goes into that. We have actually, in a couple years ago, created a path for students to get the 150 credits that they need to sit for the CPA license by the time they graduate. So we're doing a lot of that. We're in a partnership right now with CHES to start certifications on Microsoft throughout specific courses in the curriculum to ensure that students have certifications by the time they complete their degree. We're looking at Quickens, we're doing Microsoft right now, Excel, Microsoft Word, and so on. So we're looking at how do we provide education and skill sets that are well recognized that make our students more competitive in the marketplace. And in addition to that, I could say that 3 years ago, when I took the interim position, I brought in a consultant that allows to revise and may recommend. There has been changes. We used to house the MPA out of the business school. That degree has transitioned to CHES, which is a better alignment because it's public administration. And the focus of that degree has changed. It's not really business specific, but it's more about governmental. And they have several tracks that program I'm aware underwent a complete revision last year, if I recall, looking at it going through academic affairs. So a lot of work from a curriculum perspective. We also have been working very hard as a college to provide entrepreneurial opportunities and connect our students, not just with a small business development center that is housed in our buildings, but also with the Erie Technology Incubator and now with the Northwestern Pennsylvania Beehive Consortium. So we have students working, doing projects for customers. And when I say customers, I mean people that are starting businesses, people that are trying to build their businesses or just simply growth. So currently I have over 25 students engaged on opportunities working with actual clients, which is a great opportunity for them to build their resume, put in place. So those partnerships have been very important for us to make sure that the curriculum remains relevant and looking at ways of enhancing that. I gave an example earlier about students going to Super Bowl. For that specific degree, we have partnerships with the others. We have partnerships with all of these different teams in town. Obviously, that has changed this year temporarily. Hopefully, things would evolve into other opportunities. But currently, we are working with providing our students several of those opportunities virtually. And that is really the take that we're having from our partners in terms of those experiential learning opportunities. Hope that helps. I can give you more details as needed. But a lot of work going on to revise what it looked like and make sure that those programs are relevant for today.
Thank you, Dr. Vanaza. So we want to be mindful of time. We have time for maybe one or two more questions, but I think Dr. Ewing, you shared the last slide that talked about the HiFlex, hybrid, and face-to-face instruction. And I think there's probably a lot of questions. We know that in the room tonight, we have a majority of parents of current students. There's probably a lot of questions about what the spring may look like. Could you speak to maybe some of the current plans? I know that the academic calendar was recently released, but what are the anticipation or what's anticipated with course instruction for the spring? Any plans or recommendations for students that may be entering clinical experiences or student teaching, and just ways for students to stay connected and be prepared for what the spring may hold?
Those are great questions. So we have been working on our spring schedules, and the first draft of the spring schedules have gone forward, keeping in mind the new revised schedule for the spring semester to, again, think about the flu season and bringing our students back safely after the holidays, and then keeping them safe throughout the semester and finishing in May. So with respect to the instructional type, so the percent of courses that we anticipate that will be face-to-face hybrid, high flex, or remote. We do anticipate that it'll probably be a very similar breakdown to what we see for the fall. We don't expect any major changes to those numbers. So in addition to that, you asked about the clinical education. I do want to share that with the revised schedules, for some academic programs, the clinical education may continue past Thanksgiving or beyond the normal semester schedule. And that occurs normally in a normal semester, where students may have to continue a week past finals, final exams and the end of an academic semester to complete a clinical rotation based on the requirements or the standards of that particular major or area. And so the same is going to be true for the fall and for the spring. So I am aware that we do have some academic programs, both undergraduate and graduate, where the clinical education is going to continue after Thanksgiving. And they will also, there will be some programs that start prior to the start of the January semester. And that is to keep the students on track to progress toward either continuing through their program or to complete their program and graduate in May or August of 2021. Specifically for student teaching, I'll turn that over to Lori and let her speak a little bit about that as the School of Education falls within CHES.
Thanks, Sarah. And yeah, there are some similarities. The School of Education students who are scheduled to do student teaching will be coming back a little bit earlier than our new January start so that they're able to get all of their hours in. And their placements will be based on what schools are open and accepting student teachers. So currently we do have students placed in the Northeast School District in person. And then we also have the students in the residency that I described before in the Erie Public Schools. And they'll attend either remotely or in person, depending on the modality in their school. Another thing that we've done in the School of Education is we purchased a school simulator. It's called SimSchool, and it allows students who are on field placement, which comes prior to student teaching. So they're more observing and helping as opposed to being the teacher. The students on field placement can actually complete their field experience through the SimSchool. And they can practice teaching lessons to diverse students. They get feedback. They have field supervisors, just like they would in the physical field. And so they get feedback on their teaching, their lessons that they're delivering. It provides flexibility because if schools were to go remote after students have been placed, we don't have that concern because they can continue with that. And we also don't have concerns about them finishing their hours. And there's actually an advantage to the SimSchool, which is that a student can actually repeat a lesson to the same group of students if they need to do that, which you can't do that in real life. So that's another solution that we've come up with this year.
So I do have one follow-up question, if that's okay. Dr. Sahay is with us in the room, and she is a faculty member in the political science program, and actually let me know that they are finding more opportunities for internships because the employers that we work with at Gannon are adapting to the remote opportunities. So we're actually seeing some positive come out of some of the changes that are being made. And one of the other positives that I've heard from some of our students and colleagues is the adapted January or December term, winter term that Gannon will now offer. And a question came in as to where faculty, students, parents, where can they find the listing of the courses being offered in that new term?
They have been published on the website at this point, and I can find an email and post the link on the chat if you want me to.
Sure, or you can ask Dr. Vernazza and we will follow up with an email to everybody who was participating in the event tonight, and we can share that resource as to where to find that question. So we would be happy to pass that along.
I believe there was a broader message that was going out from marketing that listed the classes, also the precise dates and things like that. There have still been some adjustments in the courses offered, but there's going to be at least 10 courses, most of them in the liberal core. And so students will have the opportunity to maybe take a class that they would be planning to take in spring and lighten their spring load. It is considered part of the spring load as far as tuition and financial aid goes. So it will be part of a 18 credit total for a full-time tuition, and students can take those classes, take a class or two during the winter semester.
So I did send the link to Allison and Tony, and they will be able to share that with you. There are 12 courses, and the time frame is listed there on which one of those courses. The list of
Thank you. Got it. And we'll make sure that we send that to everybody in our follow-up email for attending tonight. But I think that's it. So thank you guys for joining us, and thank you to all three of the deans for taking the time to give us all this great information. You really did give us a lot of good information. We will have another event with the deans during homecoming called Donuts with the Deans. So it's going to be a more fun event. Bring your donut, your favorite type of donut, and join us the weekend of October 1st through 4th for homecoming reunion week, or homecoming at home. And that's it, I guess. Have a nice night, everyone.